Hello everyone. Hello, my name is Katie and this is one of the final videos of this series, although I think it's just going to keep going. I enjoy putting out videos like this, and I am doing a series of making decisions, initiating them, having a messy middle, and this one is about finishing. So if you haven't watched the other ones, you may want to do that first because it comes in a more logical order. If you listen to them out of order, it's still fun. It's still entertaining. So do it your way. I definitely am feeling this one the most because I am filming these back to back. I am trying to wrap these up before a deadline of my own. And when I'm done with this one, I will feel finished. So as I'm going through, these might resonate pretty hard with me right now, and I might be like, ooh, feeling that right now. So this is all about finishing, whether it's a project, finishing a stage in your life where maybe you brought something new into your life. Maybe there's something that is a new way of living, a new person that you met, a new anything. Going back to school, starting a new job, starting a business, starting projects with clients, whatever it is, those big things, volunteering somewhere, there's going to be a point where things kind of either wrap up, whether it's if you're starting a new job, it can just be that first month. And then you're into a new routine and you kind of have finished that transition. And it went from your days look like this to now they look like this. It's not about ending the job, although it could be. You could be finishing up a job. Whatever it is. I put some of these ideas down because I know they help me when I'm thinking about a beginning, middle, and end of something, and especially the messy middle. It's just messy. And so this is about wrapping things up. And what does that mean? How can you look back at things? How can you make this ending an important thing to celebrate? So finishing can feel like pushing a rock up a hill. So it can feel like this might be one of the hardest parts. And there is a next very important part to why this may feel like the hardest part for you. It may feel like a roller coaster where the middle was really hard and you're kind of just swooping into that ending, right? I guess here to here if you want to think left to right. So you're kind of like climbing the hill, and maybe it is kind of an easy down. But it also can feel this way where you're going into a dip for the missing middle, and then towards the end you're like trying to push this up the hill just to reach that finish line. Are there people that you can call upon to help you? Could it be virtually? Where it's an actual virtual assistant, or is it someone that just knows you and can help cheer you on and say, you know what, you might want to put a deadline on this as like a month from now, and let's see if you can do it. Like having a deadline, when you announce a deadline to other people, if it's just an internal deadline you're giving to yourself, having that outward accountability can help see you through. So who can help get you to that point where you feel like you have this finished? Does finishing make you feel sad? How can you plan your next one? So this is something really key. I do find, especially for people who are neurodivergent, there can be a part of you who doesn't want it to end. And I guess you can be neurotypical as well. It's like reading a book that you just absolutely loved. And I hear this from multiple people. I used to read a lot of books. I can't so much now. I'm having some difficulty tracking with my eyes and dyslexia. And it's something I've always had, but as I grow older and I'm more tired, it's just more pronounced. So it just makes it a little bit more difficult for me. So what I hear from readers is like, they don't want the book to end. So they'll just kind of stop reading the last chapter and then they'll never go back to it because they don't want that feeling of ending, because also the ending can be really disappointing. I'm not talking about what you're doing is really disappointing. I'm trying to say, like, there are people who enjoy the middle part so much that they just don't want it to end. And I'll take that example of like starting a new job. So look at the middle and end, not as the end to that job, but the end to certain eras of that job, whether it's just starting it or the following year, or maybe there's like a project that you're doing at that job that's like kind of can fit inside of a box or a timeline. You may not want to stop that, but you're going to have to. But you're not stopping the overall job or volunteer work or whatever it is. There's just like a bunch of boxes in a row of like, oh, that was that time. It was this time. And there's more to come. Like, how can you plan your next one? So, especially with client work, having your, doing this awesome project with a client and then kind of being sad that that's wrapping up. How do you plan your next one? Do you have someone in the pipeline? Do you have someone kind of on the waiting list so you can go on to your next project to just kind of keep that momentum rolling? Excuse me. How can you keep going and not feel like, oh, I don't want to stop ever, so I never want to finish that? So, but yeah, it can be really hard because you may not ever have that feeling again of starting that thing and being in the middle, just like reading a book. So what I'm referring to is like when people say, I'll never have that experience of reading this book the first time ever again. And I think you can kind of apply that to a lot of situations. But how can you plan the next one? There's more to come. There's more to come. How will you celebrate? Like you may not know until you're actually done, but sometimes it's helpful to have a celebration in mind. So for me, I have like some mini celebrations. When I get medication, like every 8 weeks, I have a special coffee. Like there's something, and at first I just kind of made this up the first time I did it when I had my first infusion. I was just like, this was kind of hard to go through. I'm just going to get a little something special for myself. And then I found myself doing it every time. And then I was like, oh, today's my coffee day, not my infusion day. So it kind of put a little spin on things. So as you're repeating finishing things, if this is something you're doing over and over, especially if it's project-based, end of a class, end of a school year, end of something, how can you celebrate? Could you have like this really special meal with friends? Could you take a trip somewhere? What can you do to really not announce, I like want to say pronounce, to like really put this exclamation mark at the end of something. I did it. I did this. I did this. How can you do that? And maybe like a big celebration is not the thing for you. Maybe it's buying yourself something. Maybe it's having an experience, going to a concert, something that just really marks that this is complete and you're just celebrating. We all deserve to celebrate. We all deserve that. It can be very, very toned down because, my son he doesn't even want happy birthday sung to him. I understand when there's times where he has totally different ways of celebrating. What is it for you? Look back at how far you've come. So sometimes it helps to have an outside view of this. If you're working with a life coach, if you're working with friends, someone who can look back and remember things that you don't. And this is where, if you've been maintaining a diary or a journal, you can look back and see what those milestones were. You can see how far you've come. Even if you don't keep a journal about this specific thing, if you do journal daily or weekly, you can look back in those posts or written pages and think, wow, I was in a totally different headspace then. Oh, I remember when I had to make the decision on this one or this one, and I was really upset about how something turned out, and I had to compost it, and I had to think of a different way through. It's really fascinating to see how you have grown over this process. And I very much believe that it's really exciting to see that growth. And sometimes it's the coach can remind you, a life coach or some kind of business coach, it's whoever is kind of guiding you through can like show you how you've made these decisions for yourself and that you've navigated through, and then you've given yourself time off so you don't burn out, that you've invited new people in or done extra research. Like there's so many points where you're like, oh yeah, I did do that. So having an outside view, whether it's your partner or family friend or a chosen friend who can say, do you see how far you've come? Because like, that's really amazing. You may be the most tired right now, but how can you rest before you meet the end? There's some kind of ending, whether that ending is hardline, 5 o'clock on a Friday, or it is, I am done in January. And it's kind of a fuzzy time, or I'm done in 2024. How can you rest or slow down before you go, you know what, I'm pulling an all-nighter. You know what, I'm just going to push myself to a burnout right here at the end. Let's try not to. There are times when you have to. I would think in a more legal term, like if you have to meet a deadline at a certain time because it's in your contract, whatever it is, you're going to have to meet it because you took on that responsibility unless you negotiated a different deadline. But what I'm talking about is like, if this is something where you're like, you know what, I was announcing to people I'll be ready on Friday. It's not. I am about to burn out. I'm going to launch it on a Monday. Okay. If it's not hurting anybody else, do that. Get some rest for your body. It's not going to be the end of the world if you announce a different date. I've seen it happen. I've seen people do it. They have things that come up. They wanted to have a big sale of their ceramics or something, and they put it all in the kiln and it just doesn't work. And is it a horrible feeling? Yes. But is it something that we can move past and put behind us and go, oh yeah, last year I had that one batch that just went totally bad, but I had like 10 other batches that were like beautiful. They came out absolutely beautiful and I had much success. And people want to see that people can pick up from, everything going wrong and keep going. We want to see those success stories. It's kind of like the underdog story, right? We cheer going, you know what? It didn't work out, but we're still cheering for you. Sometimes it makes that relationship even stronger because they see like you're not going to put out junk. You're not going to change your values or your quality to know that, hey, I'm here to do this the right way for me and for my customers. That's just an example. But how can you rest right now? How can you, if you are just so tired, how can you take a power nap? How can you take just a nap that day? I mean, I did it today. I was wanting to film these and I'm like, I cannot do it in my current state. I have to rest my mind and my body before I have these long conversations. Veer away from burnout. Try not to burn out. Like, it's not going to serve anyone. It's not going to serve yourself if you are trying to give from emptiness. It's going to cause health problems. It's going to cause your mental capacity is just not going to be there. And see if there's a way to negotiate through. See if there's a way to pick a new deadline, to do things differently, to say no to some things. Maybe you said you'd volunteer somewhere, but you have this deadline for work and you just can't. Be there for the ones that are the most important, like your family and friends. But if there's something where you overcommitted, be honest about it. Just say, I overcommitted. I can't do this right now. I cannot burn out. And if you've burnt out, you know. Is there music to play to get you across the finish line? So this is kind of fun. This is playing with your senses a bit. Is there something, you could wrap a blanket around you. You could have like a scent in the air. You can play music. You can, like, what kind of tangible things can you touch or feel or listen to or watch, or anything that can help get you across the line? Sometimes listening to like certain songs can help you feel super powerful, that you can do this and you can make your way across that finish line. So, do your power pose. What is it that can make you feel really in your body and knowing that you can do this through the next step? Do you have a mood board or a visual that you've been referring to? I kind of wish I had written this in the second part, but this is where I put it. I feel like these can really help because you start to see visuals that are showing up. I don't believe in like heavy manifestation of any kind, but if you have some visuals and a plan of what you're doing, you're going to recognize that some of those things are happening that are true in your life. So, if you are working really hard for a new car because yours is about to break down, and you have this plan of, you got a promotion at work, you worked hard for that, that's part of your plan, you worked for it, you were invited onto a project and you were able to earn more money, and then you're out buying this car that was a visual sitting next to your desk for the last year. Like, there is something really powerful in seeing that every day and being able to focus on it and have that as an important thing in your life. There's something really powerful about seeing that visual. A lot of people just put mood boards as the desktop pattern of their laptop, and it doesn't mean that they get everything on there, but it very much can center them and go, okay, this is my why for doing this. This is why I want to take this to the end. This is what I want to achieve. It could be a new position. It could be a new place to volunteer. It could be new friendships. It could be a wedding. It could be something that you are getting to the finish line about. I'm using finish line a lot, so I'm sorry. But again, it could be something very loose. Could be a month or a year. It doesn't have to be on a certain day. Invite previews or soft opens, a soft landing. So this wording can very much apply to if you have a business. But I want you to think about this a little differently too. So if you're doing some kind of project for school, is there something you can do towards the end to show like you are almost done to other people? Like, it's not the best example, but just saying like, hey, I just got those tests done. I don't have my final grade yet, but I just wanted to share. And it's kind of like that. I'm kind of in this anticipatory mood of like, I'm anticipating something, but I'm not there yet, but I want to invite you in. And no, I might have a little bit of a failure. I may not get the grade that I want, but I'm letting you know, and you can kind of participate with me. It could be that you have some sort of business or service that you're offering those, and you want to kind of have like that friends and family soft opening where you do it the week before, and then you have the big public opening later. That soft opening is allowing you to make mistakes. That's the biggest thing. it's kind of the safe area where you can make mistakes. Is that my next one? Yeah. Allow failures in a safe and supported way. Like these two kind of go together for me. So is there a state towards the end of something that you create this space that you're allowed to kind of fumble and fail, or that you can make it a learning environment, that you can make it an easy way to compost things? Maybe you're like trying to put a spreadsheet together that you want to sell to other people. Can you invite a couple people in to try it out so that when you put it out there, you don't have like 30 people saying this doesn't work? Whereas if you have 2 or 3 people who said, yeah, this didn't work for me, you can go in and fix it. And then you can release it. And then those 30 people don't exist that are having that problem. They might have other problems, but like major problems. It's kind of like beta testing. It's kind of like having like a little circle where you're just kind of allowed to make mistakes, so that when you go out into the world, you feel more confident about it. It won't be how you thought it would be. This finish, whether it's like a new job and you're like maintaining at a new job, it's not going to be how you thought. You can picture everything in the world and it's not going to be that way. Things change. Businesses change. School changes. Your ideas change. The state of the world changes. Society changes. Technology changes. Everything that comes along influences how we originally saw things. It could be just minor changes, but it's still going to be different. It could be, you built your whole business on one kind of website and you're like, wait, I launched it and I want it to be on something else. That kind of stuff happens. You start school at one thing and you're like, I'm going to switch majors. Halfway through my schooling, I switched majors. It's like, I wanted to do photography. I ended up in interactive media. Like they're kind of related in the long run, but there's people who, they go to school and you're like, I want to be a scientist. And then they end up in something artistic or vice versa. It's not how you thought it would be. You can visually see it very, very clearly, and it's still not going to be that way. Fresh days, outlooks in case you need to change course. So allow for some time towards the end, so that you're not being burnt out, to get some rest. But this allows for some fresh outlooks, so you can make those really quick tweaks at the end, those little changes that are maybe very important. If you're burnt out, you're not going to see those little things. You're going to be running on fumes. You're not going to be able to see like, oh, it would have been really helpful if I had just made one setting change or one little change, or contacted somebody and I just didn't think of it because I was so tired. Have some time to have those fresh days. Like having, maybe you're taking tests. I'm just thinking because my son's about to take some tests the next few days. Have the best rest possible. Have a really good solid breakfast. Have those things so that when you go into that situation, you have the chance to have a fresh look. So in case you need to change things up. It won't be perfect. It just won't, no matter how you picture it. Even when you see these artists who are like creating clothes on the runway and they look absolutely amazing and stunning, I'm sure you've heard the stories of how things are just like emergency sewing things together. Even at awards shows, everything looks perfect. It is not. It is not. So it won't be perfect for you too. There are so many humans out here humaning. As I said in a previous video, you just can't get perfection. Because perfection is also, what is it called? It's just a point of view. So it could be perfect to one person and not perfect to another. So, or if it's perfect in a photograph, it could be heavily manipulated. And someone still may look at that and go, I don't like it. So perfect doesn't exist. And good enough is good enough. And I'm trying to remember who just said that. It was someone I thought in the planning community. If I remember, I will put it down below. I don't know if it was Sierra from Moxie Life. I don't know. To me, it seemed like one of the major people, because I saw some Go Wild people talking about how things good enough is good enough. Or it could have been one of the YouTube videos I was watching. I am so sorry. I forgot to write down who I heard that from. It's not me. It's not me. So if it's you, raise your hand. But I find this really helpful. I'm trying to remember who that was. Yeah. Good enough is good enough. Is the ending a loop? I've talked about how where the ending may be like a new, like typical, I don't like to say normal, but a new kind of like typical thing that you're going to be repeating over and over. But what if it's actually like a loop where you're looping all the way back and starting over again? It could be another class that you're taking. It could be another client that you're dealing with. It could be another opportunity for something. It could be another kid. You have another kid. You've been through it once and you're starting over again. Is this ending an actual loop? Because you're going to approach things differently if you know it's a loop. Or if you're realizing towards the end of things, wait, I'm going to start this process over. You may end it differently. You may celebrate it differently. You may prepare for the next loop differently. Who can hold the signs as you cross the finish line? So again, this is very much like, how would you celebrate? But who's going to join you there? Who's going to cheer you on? Who's going to be like, I'm giving you a big old hug at the end of this? Who's going to be your cheer team as you achieve this? And it can still be yourself. It can be your own heart that's holding that sign. It doesn't have to be a bunch of people, but who is it at that finish line? What's the reward? Do you get to pause? Do you get to have like, as I said, like a vacation? Do you want to buy a new handbag? Do you want to go to a concert? Do you want to spend time with your family? Do you want to take a flight somewhere? Do you just want to have a big Zoom meeting where everyone is just having a party? Do you want to play online games? Do you want to buy a new game? Like, what is it that's going to reward you every single time? Or most times, I guess. Will you be taking a pause after this? That's one of the key things. And the last one is, how do you embody success? What does it look like when you have success within you? When you're taking that time to go, yes, I did that. How does it feel in your body? Is it something you're like quickly going to the next thing? I often do that. I get it. But how can we within our bodies feel that ending, that finishing, that moment where you completed something, or that cycle is starting over again, or that you did good enough is good enough? That's bugging me. Someone said that recently. It was just within this last week. Again, I will link to them if I can. I'm trying to remember what the person was doing. They were trying to create something. Yeah, it's not coming. But again, if I figure it out, I'll link it below. If you know, let me know. I hope this whole series has helped. Again, I think I'm going to keep going with this. There are some deeper thoughts I have, but there's a foundation here about, I started with not having goals and looking at how I'm using my energy. Then it went to how do I make the decisions, and then how do I initiate them, how do I have a messy middle, and how do I finish them up. But now I want to get more specific in some other things. So that is coming. But I thought this series was really important to cover all of this. So watch everything, watch it again. Your mind may be in a totally different place if you watch all 3 of these like 6 months from now, because something else will be very important to you. And it can be necessary for us to embody things or hear things a little different. So I welcome you to rewatch these or just make a screenshot, have these available to you. What did I miss? What did I miss in these? I probably missed some things. I'm a humaning, so I'm not going to be perfect, and all of this was good enough for me. But I want to hear from you. I would love for people to look in the comments here and have you guys add things. All you guys, gals, and non-binary pals, just if you'd like to expand on this, I would love to hear. And like this on the way out if you enjoyed this. And if you want to hear more from me, please consider subscribing, because there is more to come. I'm on a roll now. I have momentum and I am finishing this, but I see more to come. So I should go celebrate. Okay, take care, everyone. Bye.